Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you choose to read your clock, an early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Today's first part of this bonus upload is a video a subscriber sent me. The video has no sound and is about 4 minutes long and is rather compelling. I've watched it 6 times now, and at first I was a little leery, and then I kept watching it, and well, I don't know where I sit on the fence on this one. Like I said, it's rather compelling, to be honest with you, and shocking. So, like I said, it's about 4 minutes long with no sound. You guys be the judge. I'm not putting my 2 cents in at all on this one until I am 100% positive that I want to stand by my decision. And like I said, I'm not going to throw in my 2 cents until I have officially watched it enough to say yes or no. That's how I've got to be on this one, because to me it looks real, and to me it looks too real to be real. So I don't know. I really don't. So let's get some encounters into this bonus, shall we? Today's second part of this bonus upload. My husband comes from a long line of outdoorsmen, hunters, fishermen, etc. He spends every weekend out exploring the land and also grew up in a dense forest. He is a proud skeptic, an actual earth scientist as profession. He doesn't believe in anything unless there's evidence to back it up. He says, as he's grown up in the woods for over 4 decades, if any of these things existed, he would have seen something by now. He told me an experience he had forgotten about last night while he was out in a national forest an hour north of us. He saw a strange group of 3 deer. The deer had long, bony, skinny bodies with weird, elongated legs and wolf tail. He said the tail part was so bizarre, strangely long and almost as long as their whole body, bushy, just like an extra-long German shepherd's tail. He said the deer's bodies did not look right, really gangly and disproportionate, but could not put his finger on what was so strange about them. The tail was what stood out the most. We then Googled deer species in the area, and nothing matched the description. There are some deer with longer tails, but they don't exist in our area, and their tails are not bushy and long like a dog's tail. They are trim and stubby, like a regular deer's tail, just elongated. Basically, no such creature exists in our area or anywhere else. He said that he'd seen them once, and sometime later saw them again. They were not moving, just watching him. Nothing else out of the ordinary happened that day. The first thought in my mind was shapeshifter, or dogman. There's many accounts of weird half-deer creatures associated with shapeshifter or dogman encounters. The thing is, he has had paranormal encounters but refuses to accept it was something out of the ordinary. He was in the middle of nowhere at night when a giant, totally black craft flew straight over him, covering the sky, making a weird pulsating sound, like a pulsating electronic hum. He thinks it was just simply an experimental aircraft and didn't think anything about it. Another time, when he was driving on an isolated country road at night, he and his passenger saw a very bright orange orb in the sky moving around. Suddenly, a cow appeared in the middle of the road out of nowhere, and they almost hit it. Once again, he assumes it was a planet he saw, and the cow had quickly run onto the road when they were not looking. And another time he saw a pair of yellowish-green glowing eyes watching him from the darkness pretty high up, 7 feet-ish, accompanied by some whistling. What he said was an eerie tune. This encounter is the only weird one he'll admit to. As he felt uneasy and ran back to find his car, this took place by a pond or a body of water. Regarding the strange wolf deer, does this sound familiar to anyone? Have they had an experience like this or heard about an experience like this? It seemed pretty strange to me, and my husband, who can properly identify any common animal, was very perplexed, as he had never seen anything like it in this area, or any wildlife book, period. He thinks it's nothing, but I definitely don't. Tonight's third part of the bonus. I'm from Trenton, Ontario, and I am currently scared. There's been so many occurrences of strange stuff happening, but today was just not it. Ha! I decided I was not going to sleep for school the following morning, as I sometimes do, but tonight I had a very, very odd vibe coming from my room's window. I'm usually not the type to be frightened by my window, but today I just couldn't look at it, and there was a haunting feeling coming from it. I kind of brushed it off, so I called a friend on Discord and played some video games. Where I play video games, the window is directly behind me, and I can generally hear what's going on behind me. About every 10 minutes, I would hear a clicking noise, 2 clicks to be precise. My room is on the 2nd story, and there's no trees relatively close enough to create a noise. So each time I heard it, I would sort of try and make an excuse for it. Oh, it's just a squirrel or something, or maybe it's water. But after listening carefully each time, I came to notice that it was most definitely not that. Later on, at around 3:54 a.m., my friend left the call to sleep. I was just sort of vibing, watching TikToks, and then I started hearing a rapid tapping. The tapping was so mortifyingly human that I froze and continued to listen to the tapping. I then recognized a 5-finger tapping pattern. I was horrified. I sat for maybe 15 minutes straight, not looking anywhere but except where I froze. After calming myself down and finally letting myself breathe, I got up, not making eye contact with any wall or window, and I went to a room with no windows and vibrated for a bit. I finally went back to my room at around 5. I went and laid down on the bed, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, I heard a muffled howl bark come from the forest. Usually, I would just brush it off as my neighbor's dog Leela, but it did not sound like her. It didn't sound like Leela at all. It couldn't be wolves or coyotes because they never cross a certain part of the forest, which is surprisingly closer to the 401. At this point, I was really freaked out, and I just tried to continue my morning. That's really where the odd stuff ends for that night. But that was definitely not the first time this has happened. We have a really old house. My parents think it's ghosts, as they've heard things mock them, weird laser lights being pointed around our house, whispering, black shadows hovering over my crib, and an old British lady calling out names. See, I agree with all that, but I think the thing lurking in the forest by my window is different. Another weird thing that I've found is when we redid the insulation for my room, drywall underneath the insulation was 50s clothes, newspapers, and some weird signs like pagan spray painted in black and goat head and a bunch of gibberish words. We covered it all up, but it sort of haunts me to know what lies beneath the wallpaper. And the final bonus encounter. I'm 19, I know, a bit young to be credible, but I've seen some stuff. I've lived most of my life up to the age of 14 in Michigan. I lived in the St. Joe area, if anyone is familiar. Anyways, my grandparents lived in the northern part of Michigan, and we would regularly drive the 4 to 5 hours and go and visit them, either on our way to the lake house, which was a little further north, or just to visit. They lived in the middle of nowhere, 25 minutes from a town. Both of their neighbors were a mile in each direction, and their property was huge. They lived in a small trailer in the middle of that property. They had 2 pastures on each side of the property, and in the back they had miles of trails that would take you throughout the woods. My grandfather usually hunted out there. I was hitting golf balls from the front of the house into the pasture. I hit all my balls and went to collect them. I opened the gate and shut it behind me so none of the dogs could get through, and I walked around picking up my golf balls. A couple of them went further than normal, so I had to walk back behind the pasture area into the wooded part. As I was walking, I could hear leaves being crushed, but they were like a little off from my steps. I kept hearing this weird noise come from behind me, kind of like a watery sound, I guess. It was like someone had just gotten out of the shower and they were dripping wet, but this noise kept stopping and starting, so I just thought it was the wind blowing water out of the trees. I found my last ball and turned around and started to walk back and saw something tallish move behind a tree. I could tell it was taller than me, but didn't really know what it was. Being from Michigan, we've got our fair share of scary animals that would love to bite into your meaty flesh, but this was definitely not a wolf and could not have been a bear. So I kind of stood there frozen, just looking at the tree and bushes the thing was near. After a while, the thing started to creep out, and it crawled out on its hands and feet. First, I saw its long, skinny arms, which were followed by its head. It looked up and around and finally looked at me. It crawled the rest of the way out, and I could see its whole body. It had skinny arms, like it hadn't eaten in a while, dark-looking skin that had a shine like it was slimy. Its body was just a mass of flesh. It didn't look to have a stomach or a chest. It was just kind of twisted up and misformed. Its legs were just as long and messed up looking as its arms, and both the thing's feet and hands were elongated. Not massively or anything, but you could tell it was longer than your average human hand and foot. Its head was the part I have a real hard time pinpointing down. It had eyes, no hair, and a long mouth that didn't open. The nose was just two holes, and it had a very long, exaggerated chin, but it kind of looked normal in a way. It stared at me, and without opening its mouth, it made the sounds I had been hearing, which seemed to be made by its nose as the holes flared. It started to walk around, not at me, but just around where it was. Then it stood up on its two legs. It was probably 6.5, 7 foot tall, and its appearance made it look a lot scarier. The thing moved its neck in an unnatural way and then looked at me. It was only 25 yards away, way too close for comfort, but I was not about to move and have this creature charge me. All of a sudden, it just bolts right at me. My eyes open wide, just prepared, but it ran right by me and through the woods. I turned around and sure enough, it just kept running. Sometimes on all fours, sometimes on two legs. It's run both ways. It was unnatural. Its body contorted and just looked so off. I ran out of the pasture and shut the gate behind me again. I didn't tell my grandparents right away, but a couple of months later I did. This was in the summer of 2018. I didn't tell them till about fall of the same year. My grandfather pulled me aside after I told him and asked me what it looked like exactly. I told him, and he said, "I've seen it before on the trails." He didn't see anything more, just for me not to be worried. I haven't really told anyone but family and close friends about this, but I guess that has changed now. This really messed me up for a while. Scary thing is, too, I've seen it after several times in different places, never at my home, but anywhere up north. Even at the lake cabin, an hour away from my grandparents. This one was by far the scariest, though. I know it's not a skinwalker, at least it shouldn't be. I don't know, but does anyone possibly know what it may be? This took place 2018 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Well, there you have it, folks. Tonight's or this morning's early morning, middle of the night bonus. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and what gives folks like us a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about. and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.